Hey, welcome to the Real Estate Baller Show. If you're new here, my name is Vili. This is the show about sharing real estate investing knowledge, experience, and real life lessons. I just had the most intriguing conversation today. Tim Herriage does not need an introduction. He started his real estate journey about 2 decades ago, and Tim has built and sold several companies during that journey. He's here to share how he's been able to be so successful in real estate investing and his view on the current market. Hey Tim, welcome to the Real Estate Baller Show. What's going on in your world today?
You know, V, just traveling the world, giving people money for free, and also trying to finish my latest Airbnb project. So another day in the life of a real estate investor.
Giving money for free, huh?
Well, I mean, as long as you
Let
pay,
me know where I can send my checking account info.
as long as you pay it back.
Okay, so you are a leader, is what I call in our industry, and you speak at many events. But if you can take a minute to give the audience an introduction.
Yeah, my name's Tim Herriage. I've been in the real estate industry for 20 years now, almost 21. Started out as just a general contractor, started flipping houses on my own, worked for a home investors franchise, partnered up with a hard money lender, met my wife in the business and ended up partnering with her, almost lost everything in '08, tried to give everything away in '09. Came out of it in 2010, started the REI Expo, sold that to Think Realty. It's now the Think Realty Expo. From that, I met Blackstone and I started B2R Finance, which we then merged with Finance of America, which we took public last year. Through that, I've always continued to buy single family homes. I still do right now. Bought 3 duplexes last week. I invest in single family individual assets as well as some large funds that buy, thousands of houses. I invest in multifamily funds. I am a GP for multifamily funds. And I invest in a lot of commercial real estate as well through syndications of, people I trust. And so that's kind of me in a nutshell and my full-time job, if you will. I'm the executive director of RCN Capital. We're one of the leading lenders for real estate investors in the space. We're a private lender. We're not a hard money lender. So we customize every loan to the investor and their experience and their credit score and their exit strategy. So we offer fix and flip, long-term rental, and ground-up construction loans for single-family, multifamily, and mixed use. We've done well over $1 billion this year in loans. That's with a B. And we intend to get to the 2 billion mark. And we love winning alongside with our customers. So I guess that's a simple summary of me.
I thought your full-time job was fishing.
That's in a couple years. As soon as my youngest son is out of high school and I'm not chained to this location, my full-time job will be hunting and fishing for sure.
That sounds really amazing. So, having been involved in so many different areas of real estate, what's your favorite thing?
That's a good question. It's changed over the 20 years, right? Mm-hmm. When I was young and didn't have any money, I loved the deal. Like writing that contract at the kitchen table. I mean, or what they call it, belly to belly. I loved it. But when you really look back, I loved it for a large reason because I knew how much money I would make, right? Like it was just, when I was in the Marine Corps, we made $1,810 a month. If we went to combat, we got an extra $100. And I'll never forget the first time I made $6,000 in a week. Like it almost felt like I was robbing a bank.
Yeah.
So when I first got into the business, and I say that because I understand like literally how it feels to be the most new wholesaler on your audience that's kind of getting their first deal. And that used to be my favorite, the thrill of the chase, the art of the deal, the negotiating, the back and forth, the driving around from appointment to appointment. I'm a little older now. I never really liked flipping because I grew up in a construction family and we always, I believe in quality, high quality work. And it's hard to make money in the flipping business if you're over rehabbing a house. As a matter of fact, a lot of investors tell you not to over rehab a house. And so it's interesting. What we learned is I'm bad at flipping houses, but
Well, that's the hardest part of the business
I
anyway,
think
don't
so.
you think?
But my wife is
Yeah.
excellent at it. So if she needs a structural consultation, she brings me in. But when it comes
Yeah.
down to the rest of the decisions, she gets to do it. Right now, my favorite part of the business is honestly investing in multifamily syndications, leading multifamily syndications, and buying large properties that I can Airbnb in unique locations and cash flow larger assets. My wife really loves the design part of it. I like the fact that you get to buy a really nice place. Like we've got one here in my hometown that, I mean, it's a $1.3 million house. There's no way you could cash flow it on a normal rental. It's a historic home, so it brings a lot of value to the community and to my family's portfolio. So I'm really excited about that. And she gets to decorate it. She loves that. And I get to spend as much money as I want fixing it the right way because I'm going to keep it forever.
I know you call it Airbnb, and I'm gonna correct you because we're supposed to call them short-term rentals. But yes, so that definitely opened up a new door for a lot of people. I think it's allow us to own a new asset, right? Because your typical long-term rental, you're thinking of like a $200,000 house, 3, 4 bedroom, 2 bath, and you getting, 2,000 in rent. But with short-term rental, you see the opportunity.
Right, right. Well, yeah, and you're correct, right? It's short term rental. A lot of our houses are actually not even short term rentals, they're actually temporary housing, right? So we target insurance companies, people that are relocating and waiting for their home to be built,
Yep.
people that they had a fire or a flood in their home. We get divorces, when the husband or the wife have to move out immediately, but they need to stay near and they don't have the furniture yet. Traveling nurses, we get a lot of those in our furnished properties. So you're correct. It's not an Airbnb. That's just what we say now. Most of my houses, very interesting, are actually now temporary housing, not short term rentals. The short term rentals we only do in very unique locations where we know we'll have very high turn, right? V, you're very correct. That's a very important distinction between the two.
Well, because it's something that I'm real passionate about, and we have a property management company that manages short-term rentals. So I know we go out of our way to explain it to people, like, hey, it's not an Airbnb.
Do you manage
But
properties in Texas?
we do.
We
Yeah,
got to talk.
we gotta
Well,
talk.
it's because it's an interesting thing. We've only been in the short term rental, temporary housing space for about 2 to 3 years. And it all started because we bought a home in San Antonio where my son was going to college. And we wanted to be able to cash flow it when we weren't there. And I think it's been very important in the first year or two to kind of do some self management. But now we've grown the portfolio large enough and we have enough understanding of the inner workings where it is definitely, I've actually told my wife she has to hire a manager before the end of the year because I cannot take any more conversations at the dinner table about the cleaning lady that didn't show up.
Completely. This wasn't intended to be our conversation today, but we're gonna, uncover it a little bit. Here's my analogy. Okay, just think of how much your house will pull in a year. Let's just say 100,000 a year in rent, right? Just assume that you have a good property and it pull in 100,000. If you hire a property management company, that's $20,000 commissions that you pay, about 20%, right? So if you keep it, I would say this to people. Well, you just got yourself a full-time job at $20,000 a year.
Yeah. I mean,
So that's
I completely agree with you. I hate it. Like, in this ultimately, we were talking about it earlier. Ultimately, this is one of the reasons investors almost inevitably graduate to multifamily because single family homes have a lot of friction. They have a lot of management, they have a lot of maintenance, and it's never truly passive. Even if you have a management company you will be required to make decisions, right?
Yeah.
You'll be required to answer questions. You'll be required to approve expenses. Well, short-term rentals are that times 100, right?
True.
Because if you're doing well, instead of one turn every 1.5 years, you have one
Hmm.
turn every 2 days, right? Like
Yes.
exponentially, it's 1,000 times more effort. And we as a lender, because we loan on short-term rentals, we're
Yeah.
very interested and concerned at
Hmm.
how that exit strategy or income strategy is going to play out during recessionary times,
Yeah.
specifically when people are self-managing, right? We have more
Right. Right.
confidence in people with managed properties, both on the traditional rental and on the short-term rental or temporary housing side. So I think people will find their execution is better, their life is better, and ultimately, when your life is better and you enjoy the investment process more, you want to do more of it, right? Uh, and then the other nice thing for me, V, has been when you have these type of assets and you
Hmm.
capitalize on componentized or bonus depreciation, it
Hmm.
makes a very big difference.
Absolutely. And that's where one of my where I switch, not totally switch, but sort of added on. And because I saw this opportunity when we have opportunity to own, like you said, $1 million house or more, and imagine the appreciations on them, right?
This episode is brought to you by Buzz Vacation Rentals, a premier property management company in Houston and Galveston. Give Buzz a call today if you need help in managing your short-term and vacation rental properties at 281-549-8432 or visit their website at buzzvacationsrentals.com. Now back to the Real Estate Baller Show.
So, were you at the Scale and Escape? Is that where you heard me? Were
What's
you at the
that?
Scale and Escape conference? I didn't
No.
know if you heard me there. So, one of the things I talked about there was in 1971, Warren Buffett bought a beach house in Laguna Beach, California, for $150,000. He recently sold it for $11 million. And
Wow.
that,
Hmm.
but it's not wow. I went back and I thought, okay, Warren Buffett, like, surely that's just extra special, right? Well, it works out to about 9.5% compounded appreciation per year. And I
Okay.
thought, okay, well, houses go up about
Hmm.
100% every 10 years anyway, the median home price.
Right.
And I was
Right.
like, okay, so he's a little above average. Well, I took the house that my parents bought when I was born in 1980. Well, I was born in
Hmm.
'78, but they bought the house in '80, and they bought it for $17,000. Well, now it's worth
Hmm.
$275,000. So
Hmm.
ultimately, that little bitty house in Mesquite, Texas, got 8.25% a year compounded appreciation. So only 1% different than the Laguna Beach house. The
Right.
biggest difference is Buffett just started with a bigger number. And that's what
Yeah.
investors don't understand. The compound effect of appreciation, quicker you can get to a bigger number. If you're making 10% on a million, it's 100 grand.
Hmm.
If you're making 10% on 100,000, it's $10,000, right? Like it's just bigger numbers produce quicker returns.
Interesting you said that because I was talking to another investor before our recording, and same concept. This investor is considering getting into multifamily,
Yeah.
because she was blown away by how much asset these people or equity these other investors got since 2018 to now. And I told her all it is you got the same appreciation in single family, but because you have less zeros.
That's it.
So
I mean, that's the whole thing. It's
yeah.
compound. The compound effect of money and effort is immense. It's just crazy.
So, I mean, your level is up here, and if we talk to someone new way down here, looking at where you at, they might get very intimidated.
Yeah, and I've been struggling lately with I get around some of these people that I'm around and I start talking way at that really high level. And that is where my brain functions, right? That's where I think, but it's not
Mm-hmm.
who I am or where I'm from, you know. So the interesting thing is the only reason I've been able to achieve what I've achieved is because I was not intimidated by those rooms. I was not intimidated by one of the greatest compliments one of my mentors ever paid me is he said, Tim, the thing I love about you is you have no problem raising your hand saying, I don't know what you're talking about. And I don't have a problem doing that because ultimately for me, I am really only robbing from myself if I sit at a table or in a room and I don't understand things and I don't ask questions, right? Because until I understand it, until I reach that level of experience or knowledge, there's just no way for me to grow as a person. So, I'm just a simple guy. I didn't go to college. I went to the Marine Corps. I learned how to fight and kill. I didn't learn how to, make money or manage money. But ultimately, I found something, and you got to remember how I started. I started by working as a project manager. I picked up the materials and I swung a hammer for a year. And then I became a buyer, an acquisitions person for a guy. And so for a year, I drove around running appointments for someone else. Then I became a partner, but I was the very, very, very junior partner, right? I had to do everything. I had to go look at the houses. I had to sell the houses. I had to manage the houses. I had to ask for the money from my partners when I needed it. It wasn't like, sometimes being a partner just means that you don't get paid to do what you do, right? Like
That's right.
It just means you have to work hard and maybe one day you'll get money. So it's like when you look at, speaking specifically to what you just said, you can't look at where I am and want to get here without being willing to do the work that I did 20 years ago, right? And too many people, they want to have 100 million in assets, but they don't want to start with their first million. And the point is you can't get there from here, right? Even if you have a bunch of money in the bank and you're independently wealthy and you want to start investing, like you can't expect to be the general partner on a syndication the first time when you have no experience, right? Like unless you're just bringing all the money, you're probably going to get in a deal where you don't even know what you're looking at. There's just a lot of value in networking. There's a lot of value in leveraging other people's time and experience. And I think more people just need to be willing to get their hands dirty and do the work. And ultimately, that's what's put me in the position where I am, is just being willing to do the work.
When you first started, did you know, okay, these are the things I have to do so I can get to where I want to be? Did you already have a goal and vision of like where you are today? Or did it just happen to you at some point later?
I tell my boys this all the time. Life is a journey, and you'll probably end up at a completely different destination than you think you're going to end up at. But the key is you have to be headed somewhere. You cannot sit still. You must be in motion. You need to have activity. So no, I did not think when I got out of the Marine Corps that I would be the executive director of a multi-billion-dollar corporation after just taking a company public last year. I did not think that. I thought I wanted to have 10 houses that made me $10,000 a month and I could be retired. Like that's what I thought. And ultimately, it still amazes me at the experiences I've had. It amazes me at the continual blessings that enter my life. Because what I've figured out, V, is I'm a giver. I am someone that I love helping other people because this business has changed my life. It has changed the trajectory of my family name. Ed Milet talks about, I am the one in my family. I'm the one that has done it, and I enjoy giving back. I enjoy helping, and it's just amazing to me how that being willing to help, being a giver in life. I guess my biggest piece of advice to your listeners is stop looking at where you can take from and start looking at where you can give to, and it will open more doors than anything else.
That's a really good advice.
Be the water, not the sponge.
That's right. So you have been known, I would call you a serial entrepreneur, meaning like you always identify opportunity. How did you have the ability to identify opportunities when they come? Hey, if you enjoyed this episode, please drop a comment below.
I think, number one, I always put myself out there. I'm willing to fail. Number two, I played high school sports. I played football. I've always liked being a part of a team. I joined the Marine Corps. and I really learned how to be a grown man and how to be accountable. I have just always been a person that takes action, just action. I don't think things through. I make a lot of mistakes. And I'll tell people, like, if you're on this call, if you're listening to this show, I have more failures than I have successes. And it's just very important. I was at a conference where Alex Rodriguez was talking the other day. And not only did he have the home run, one of the home run records, he was the top 5 in strikeouts, right? Like Aaron Judge just hit his 60-second home run. I don't even know this to be a fact, but I would bet you he has more than 62 strikeouts this year, right? Because
probably.
I'm actually going to look it up. Aaron Judge batting record.
What number was he trying to beat? Was it 65?
62. Well, he was tied at 61 up until this week, and that was tied for the American League record. And then he hit number 62, which is now the new American League record. So he has 570 at-bats, only 172 hits, right?
Yeah.
So a 31% batting average. 31%. He's batting 300. There you go. 175 strikeouts. So he has struck out almost 3 times as much as he's hit a home run.
Right.
He has struck out 2 times less than he's got a hit. That alone should tell someone what it takes to be successful. If you want to be successful, you have to be willing to strike out. And too many people on this call are afraid of losing. And winners can't be afraid of losing. Winners have to be willing to lose. That's my best advice. That's what makes me different. I'm okay losing. I have failed. I have shut down companies. I've come within days of bankruptcy. None of it matters to me. I have a very short memory and a very long belief in myself and my abilities, and in God's fortune or favor of me is really where a lot of it comes from.
So managing a large company like that, what are you seeing in the market in today's environment?
You know, look, investors are nervous. Investors are confused. A lot of it is because they haven't been in the business long enough and they don't know what normal looks like. What's going on in the market? A 6.5% mortgage rate? It's not crazy. The all-time average of the 50-year average is 7.75. The thing is, investors just have to understand that we are entering a phase of normalcy. We are entering a phase of the supply of existing homes has now went from low to dangerous. Less people are putting their house on the market than like any time in 10 years. Less people are building houses like any time in 10 years. There are more people every day, right? And people have to have food, water, and shelter, and like just that simple. So the smart investors out there, the really experienced investors, they're licking their chops. I know a guy that owns 100 houses and he just refinanced 10 of them. 10 of them at 7% interest. Do you know why?
Why?
Because he sees the opportunity in the market. He's putting more cash in the bank so he can go buy more houses. Be fearful when others are greedy, and be greedy when others are fearful. So right now is the time to be greedy. And when you're greedy, by going out and taking advantage of the opportunities in the market. You're not taking advantage of people. Those people are going to sell their houses no matter what. And it might as well be to you.
Yes, yes. I feel like the cycle that we're in is going to be short-lived. What do you think?
I feel like it's going to be short-lived, but you cannot underestimate nor can you predict the interfluence in the market. What is interfluence? It's interference and influence by politicians. The United Nations this week came out and told the U.S. to back off of our interest rates. Senators are tweeting, how dare the Fed want to put so many people out of work? We've never been through a cycle when information and displeasure was so readily expressible. So I don't know. I don't know if it's going to be 6 months or 12 months. I don't know. You know, I think there's been a lot of liquidity in the system for a lot of money. People have had a lot of money for the last couple years, and that's drying up. And I don't know where that's going to go or how long it's going to last. I think we have some consumer debt bubbles. I mean, I think there's some credit card debt and even auto loans. Like, people have been paying $20,000 more than cars are worth and taking,
Right.
so I think we've got some struggles to go through as a country economically, personally and professionally. And from what I've educated myself on, I feel like we need a good, deep, dark recession of 3 years. But my disbelief of politicians, and this is not a political statement, I don't like any politicians. I don't like the left. I don't like the right. I don't like the middle. They all lie.
Yeah.
But I can count on them lying. I can count on them doing what they need to do to get reelected, right? There's not a single politician running commercials that would tell you, look, I don't care about being reelected. I'm going to do what's right for America. Not a single one of them. So that's what I believe in. I don't think it can last over 2 years. I don't think this recessionary environment lasts another 6 months, but don't listen to that. That's the key. The key is understand there is opportunity now. Lenders are still lending. People are still buying. Houses are still transacting. Multifamily cap rates have gone from 5 to 8. And so if you think this will be a 2 to 3 year cycle, what you should know is, okay, if I can enter at an 8 and exit at a 5 in 3 years, that's a home run. That's something that hadn't been available in multifamily in a year. So that's my thing. No matter what you think, if you think it's going to be short, you should be actively acquiring assets. If you think it's going to be long, you should actively be acquiring assets. If you think it's going to be permanent, you need a new source of information.
Thank you, Tim. That's really good. We know that there's a shortage in single family home. Now that you also involved in multifamily, are you seeing that in the multifamily as well?
Multifamily's had a lot of building, a lot of growth. I do not think multifamily is oversupplied. I think some rents got a little too stretched, a little too fast, and they'll come down just a little. But that's really more on the high-end speculative stuff, right? The workforce housing, the C's and the B's, I am a huge believer in that. Because the American middle class, the lower middle class, those that aren't in the middle class yet, they're the ones that are getting royally messed over right now. These high interest rates, these high prices, they choke out the American worker. They choke out the lower middle class. Yeah. There's no way you can afford to buy a home right now if you don't make $100,000 a year.
That's right.
And so those people are going to have a place to live. So I think anyone in multifamily that can provide good, clean, quality housing that's considered affordable and has debt that is fixed for at least 3 years, it's a big key. Don't do anything variable in this environment. A lot of multifamily people from the last 2 years are getting slayed right now because they had variable debt and the property barely hit a 3 cap on, so anyway. Fix your debt as long as you can. Buy it. Understand we're not in the market we were in before June. Like, it's gone. Like, houses, multifamily, it's worth 10% less than it was in June, but it's still worth 8 to 10% more than it was worth last year. And that's the long view on real estate, in my opinion.
Yeah, I have some rental with community banks that about to expire, which I'm not looking forward to the next interest rate I'm paying, but I get it.
Well, look, but you got to think of it like this. So those community banks, it's one of the reasons I always tell people you need to, I believe community banks are great to grow with, like to get the acquisition and the refi done. But once you get past that point, you've got to lock in 30-year debt. You have to, 30-year fixed, because those community banks can call your loans. It's what happened to me in April of 2008, and it almost put me all the way over the edge. I got lucky. I had some relationships. So yeah, and V, you need to call us. We need to, we're still doing 30-year fixed loans at 6.5% at 80 LTV. And just so you know, that wasn't available before 2018. Like, it's never been available. Also, you date the rate, you marry the home. If you can pull $10,000 or $15,000 out of a house, you got to ask yourself, what can I do with that? Can I make more than 6.5% with that money? That's what Warren Buffett did on his Laguna Beach house. He got a mortgage for $120,000. And the lady on CNBC said, well, why would you do that? You didn't need a mortgage. He goes, well, I figure that I could do more with that money than what the interest rate was. So here's the beautiful thing in that example. Earlier I said from 150 to 11 million, and you go, ooh, right? The 120,000 he borrowed, he bought 3,000 shares of Berkshire Hathaway at $40 a share.
Yeah.
The $120,000 mortgage turned into $750 million. The $150,000
Say that again so the audience can hear you.
Yeah. The $150,000 house turned into $11 million. The $120,000 worth of mortgage debt that he took at 7% turned into $750 million.
That's tremendous.
Yeah. So the CNBC lady was really impressed with the house. I'm over there like, no, I want the Berkshire Hathaway, right?
All right.
That's why debt is always cheaper than equity. If you are a smart entrepreneur, which, your listeners are right now because they're listening, they're taking time to broaden their reach and their mindset. If you can be smart with your money, you just need to make sure you have more money. Compound the leverage, take the equity out, and then go make that money work for you. Because if you don't take the money out of your house or your apartment or whatever, it's just sitting there. It's making money, but not as much as if you went and levered up and got another asset. Compound your time, compound your life, and compound your assets.
Well, I'm ready to buy a bunch of properties.
Then my job here is done.
So, Tim, with all this greatness, what's next for you?
I remember when I became a millionaire. It was fun. We celebrated. When I realized my net worth had surpassed 10 million, it was an accident. I didn't even know because I just kept doing what I was doing. And I'm now invested in a little over $100 million in assets. That's not a net worth. I mean, because some of them are funds and all that. I now believe that what's next for me is I'm going to be invested in $1 billion worth of assets. And then what's next for me after that is I'm going to get to 10 billion in assets. And through syndications and investments and just kind of average profitability, pretty sure that means that I'm 44 right now. Within the next 20 years, I will be a billionaire.
Congratulations on that dream, that vision.
Not a dream. It's not a vision. It's a belief.
Belief.
I believe it. Okay. I now will say it on audiences. I say it to my kids. I say it to my wife. I believe it. And I'm one of those, once I say something, I'm going to go make it happen. I mean, but it's also math. See, I've already taken less than $1,000 and turned it into 10 million. That means I had to do that 10,000 times. So to turn 10 million into $1 billion, it's only 1,000 times. It's just math. I've been doing this 20 years. I've got another 20 mathematically. If I stay involved, I stay active, I make sure my money is always moving, my money is always compounding, I will be a billionaire. No question.
What's your comment on Grant Cardone's statement, cash is trash?
I do not believe cash is trash. I believe that liquidity, cash, on a balance sheet should be managed, should be maintained, and should be put to work when it's a responsible thing to do. I believe in people draw Cardone's balance sheet. He has plenty of cash in reserves. He has plenty of cash for operations. He has plenty of cash for contingencies. The point is, understand your business to where when you exceed the minimum the number you need to be responsible to your obligations, that you proactively invest that money in order to produce a greater return in order to continue to compound your assets. So I think people, look, it's a great catchphrase, a great thing to say on TV, and it makes sense. It's just you need to take it in context, right? It doesn't mean go drain your bank account, right? You've got to have reserves, you've got to have contingencies, but then you need to invest the excess capital. You need to clear up the lot. Too much equity in properties is irresponsible. You should leverage that. When you go from 60 LTV in a house to 80 LTV in a house, your return on equity every year doubles, right? So if you're making 20% on your equity in the house at 60% leverage with appreciation and cash flow, when you go to 80%, you literally reduce the amount of equity in half. Therefore, you double your return on the equity.
I love how you talk numbers.
So I'm not highly educated, but one of the things they taught us in school was 2 plus 2, right? And then the whole, 2 squared, right? It's one of the reasons when I look at multifamily, most multifamily scenarios, specifically right now, the target equity multiple is 2 to 2x. And typically it's 2x within 3 to 5 years. So if you just think about it, right, and you 2x your equity and then you go invest all of that equity back into a much larger deal, and then you 2x your equity, and then you 2x your equity, right? If you just take, even if I
That's your
stop,
exponential.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
even if I stopped making any money whatsoever, other than my existing net worth, right? If I take 10 million and 2x it in 5 years, I'm at 20 million, right? If I 2x that another 5 years, I'm at 40 million, and now it's taken 10 years to make to make $30 million. If I 2x that, I'm at 15 years, but I'm up to 80 million, and then if I 2x that, I'm at 160 million. So literally in 20 years, you take 10 million to 160 million. That works.
Yeah, I'll take it.
Because at that point, even if you pay yourself $10 million a year after that, like, I mean, you're going to live for a while, you know?
Yeah, yeah. You just, you'll be comfortable for a while, right?
Well, the point is, once you get to where you have $1 million and you make 10% on it, that's $100,000. Once you get to where you have $1 million, it's pretty easy to make 20% a year and then live off of 10% of it. And then if you got $10 million, it's really easy to make 10% a year and live off 10%. And before you know it, it's all about money, just making money work.
You just said something. I realized that, most average American work in companies and, take until when they retire to maybe have $1 million in their retirement accounts, right? But that happened all the time in real estate. Like if you do it right, making that 1 million in real estate is just, so it's real easy compared to the working corporate America role, to 65, and you may not even get there.
Well, and what people really have to understand is $1 million is not enough.
Right.
If you're listening and your goal is to be a millionaire, you are basically asking to be nearly poor in 20 years. The simple math of money tells you $1 million is not enough. When I die, this will be the conversation. I promise you. My kids will be talking to someone about the, $30 million worth of houses or whatever we have. And they'll be like, wow, can you believe my dad used to buy these for less than $1 million? That'll be the conversation. Because once these houses in Texas cost $10,000, people are like, God, can you believe they used to buy it for less than $100,000? Can you believe it used to be less than $80,000? Can you believe?
Yeah.
Like, it's just compound. It's compounded appreciation. I like to play with charts and data. I'm a bit of a nerd, but I'm a nerd because I love to build knowledge. Knowledge is power, and I like to look at things and understand them. So the Federal Reserve in St. Louis has these graphs, and you can Google Fred median home price. It'll pull up a chart and look at 50 years, right? And people say, oh, it can't keep going up like that. Wrong. It has to.
It has been, yeah.
Not it happens, it has to. Unless we have a black plague that wipes 20 or 50% of the country off the map. I mean, the population of the United States went up during COVID, okay? That's just math. People live longer than they ever did. Every year you have to pay people more than you ever have. And every year there's more and more of them working. If you hear that and you think, oh, don't worry, things will get cheaper, you're not listening.
So looking back in all your years in real estate, what would you say the most impactful moment?
I mean, when I met my wife. So I'll show you.
We'll make sure she listens to this episode,
This
right?
is the assignment of contract that my wife sold me a house. And this was on March 16th of 2005. It was the first house she had ever wholesaled.
Yeah.
A title company introduced us, said, if you want to wholesale it, call this Tim Herriage guy. I wholesaled it to someone else and made more money. And so
you made a higher wholesale fee than she did?
of course.
Of course.
And so the joke is now that we got married to keep it all in the family. And
Oh, I love that.
so clearly that was the most impactful time. I broke the picture. And this is the original document. Clearly that was the most impactful time. If I had one thing to do over again, I like to talk about that. That way I'm not bragging. I would have delayed more gratification. I would have bought more houses. I would have kept more houses. Because 20 years goes by fast. And where I'm sitting today, V, if I had kept one more house per year of my career, it's a difference in $10 million worth of assets.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so if you think you're going to keep one this year, I tell you, try to keep two. If you think you're going to keep two, keep three. If you think you're going to keep one a month, keep two. Force yourself to do one more. And I'm not copying Ed Milet here, even though his book, The Power of One More, is like fantastic, and I think everyone should read it. It's something I've been saying for about a year now. Keep one more. Delay a little bit more gratification, because what'll happen is you'll look up and you'll be like, wow, that was the best thing I ever did.
Totally agree. You just reminded me, I sold a house because I got lazy. The tenant moved out and the house was trash, and I got lazy. So I sold it. And I was so mad after I sold it.
And that's what people need to understand. Like, I'm not here like I'm perfect. I'm here because I've made a lot of mistakes. If I could ever talk to 20-year-old Tim, it would be live as far below your means as you can for the first 20 years of your business. Because this is the way things compound. If I'd kept two more a year, it would be $20 million. If I kept three more a year, it would be $30 million. If I forced myself to keep 10 more a year, it would be $100 million. Your efforts and your energy add up over the long term. And the more you can delay gratification and invest in yourself and in your future, there is no greater industry in the world than real estate investing. And that's why I'm proud. I mean, we've done about $1.2 billion in loans, almost 5,000 loans this year. I love helping investors achieve the American dream. I believe that this industry is it's powerful. And I'm very grateful to be a part of it. And I'm very grateful that you had me on your show.
Yeah, no, thank you for being here too. I had a chance to have dinner with the big man in RCN, and he's very nice.
Who?
The big boss at RCN.
Oh, Jeff?
Yes.
I love Jeff. And that's funny. So I started borrowing from RCN about 5 or 6 years ago. I still actively borrow from RCN. So I'm not only the executive director, I'm also a customer. But Jeff just became good friends of mine. Jeff and I, he'd come to town and we would eat barbecue, and we'd just spend time talking about the real estate market. And so when this opportunity came to me, I thought, you know what? I definitely did not want a job, but to go work with a guy that I consider a friend and add value to a company like this, that we will be the number one lender for real estate investors within the next 3 years. I have no doubt.
Love that. Okay, so as we wrapping up, Tim, what is the one thing that people might be surprised to learn about you?
I'm horrible with money. I do not manage money well. Through that, I learned that I am an expert at creating money and adding value. And so they say work on your weaknesses. I say garbage. Mm-hmm. My wife is a nester, so I give her all the money. Joke is, as long as my debit card works, I really don't care what she does with it. Hire people in your business. Like on my multifamily stuff, I have asset managers. I have people that I tell them what to do, and they do it. I don't misuse money. I just don't like managing. I don't like doing the details. I'm great with math. I'm great with making money, but I don't like the act of accounting for money. So hire the right people in the right spots so that you don't have to worry about what you're not good at. So I think when people hear me talking and they hear me talking about all this math, they think, this guy's just a financial whiz. I'm not. I listen to a lot of info. I listen to Bloomberg Radio every morning. I make myself learn and understand things. There's a difference between understanding things and mastering things. And I challenge everyone on this call, understand everything, but master the things that make you happy and that you are the best at.
Love it. Love it. Thank you so much, Tim. Last questions. How does the audience get in touch with you?
Yeah, so I'm very active on social media, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter. My name is Tim Herriage, and I'm at Tim Herriage on every single one of the channels. If you want to connect with me, I'm at RCN Capital as well. You can go to rcncapital.com if you're interested in loans. I have a personal website, timherriage.com. I post weekly blogs and sometimes daily podcasts on just little tips and tricks on real estate investing. I have a weekly podcast, The Uncontested Investing Show, where I interview some of the best and biggest and smartest investors I ever meet. which is how I learn, right? I bring smart people into my show, and then I learn from them. It's definitely a win-win. So yeah, at Tim Herriage, timherriage.com, RCN Capital, that's the way to find me.
Thank you for watching the Real Estate Ballers show. I hope you find it as intriguing as I did talking to Tim. And don't forget to give us some like and subscribe and drop a comment below so that we can hear from you as well. And here's our small favor to ask. Help us get the words out by sharing this episode with a friend. See you in the next video.